Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction, fantasy author, an eclectic reader, and good morning. I am on my second cup of tea, and I'm here to do a fun little report back on Biblio-Serendipity. And if that is new to you, it's a portmanteau. It's a squish together of biblio, which is a prefix for book-related things, and the word serendipity, which was one of our lovely bingo words that means a happy concurrence of events that ends up producing something. And what I have made this into is that feeling when you're reading multiple books at once or sequentially and you remember them, which is more than I do. And one book seems to talk to another because one point made in one has something that's related to a point made in another. And it's like, oh, wow, what about this? So I did a little craft project yesterday and made a Biblio-Serendipity chart. And I wanted to make it kind of fun. And it looks kind of like a murder investigation chart. So that's what's in the thumbnail, and that's what I'll be sharing with you. And then to make it sort of a game, if you guys watched any of those interviews, I'm going to detail the things that I thought were related in the books or that I remember that are related. And if you can make any additional relations, biblio-serendipity points, and make some more threads connect, then you get extra credit points, and that's the game. Like, there's no big deal about it. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do. My final Agitation August thing. And because this is Agitation August related, I just wanted to point your attention to, in the description, I just added a line that said, if you want to be an Agitation August guest next year, and we may do this next year, then drop me a line via Instagram or Blue Sky or email and let me know. Just put in the title, I'm interested in being a guest for Agitation August 2026, and there will be no confusion. It will be easy to see, even if the email program tries to put you in a spam folder. It will be easy to see. So just that reminder, if you want to venture out and bring a book that really shook you up next year, that is how to do it. I don't know if you can hear the what is that, sander router, something as easily as I can, but if I can, I apologize. It's still going. So we're going to say hello to the folks in the chat. Hello, Greg, Ghost Raiders in the Sky. Jim saying good. Hey, y'all. So I'll say good evening, Jim. Nice to see you. Serendipity is a good word. Yes. Eva's here to say hello. And Jim says, don't forget to boop the like button. Thank you, Jim. So yeah, that was my bit of housekeeping. And then the other bit of housekeeping is in the chat. It's about voting in the poll. You guys have maybe already voted, but there's two clear winners right now. Maybe if someone else votes, it'll be a three-way tie again. These get to be a little hard, but my last live stream, I brought up a new series that I'm doing, which is called Pre-Order Picks. And I'm just going to be supporting authors with new books and local indie bookstores, not just local to me, local everywhere. So I've got a list of about a dozen. So we'll see how long this this series goes. I'm starting out with 2. I may bring it back to 1 book per month that you guys help me pick. That is a new release that is pre-order and paperback from an indie bookstore. So those are the criteria. And then I'll read it, of course, which is going to be enjoyable. And I went over some of the possibilities, and then I put up the 4 in the poll. So that I will close that at the end of today. And if you want to have a say, you can wander over at the link in the chat and make your voice heard. Of course, there are much more important ways to make your voice heard. But that's not what this live stream is for. So we'll just leave that on the shelf for today. Hi, Cat Paw. Hello, hello. Hi, Mojo. Hello, hello. Goodness. Okay, so I think I got through all the housekeeping. Welcome, intro purpose. Yes. Okay, so here we go. I'm not a true crime person. So this is my best attempt at creating something that looks like one of those things, right? So I took all the titles and I put them on this. It's actually a desk calendar that I've been using on the backside to get a big piece of paper to brainstorm ideas. I've had it for a really long time. So this time there's lots of little murder weapons on the back because I pushed push pins through and they're just hanging in there by, friction. So hopefully I don't stab myself during this. But yeah, here's my chart of how the books relate, right? So we've got approximately 16 books and I put their names out. The ones that have more action in the middle, that are more murder suspecty, those are the ones that had more points to relate. And the ones that I doubled up down here and over here, there's two on pieces of paper, two on pieces of paper, two and two. Those are the ones that had fewer links, so I didn't put them in the middle. But yeah, so first of all, since you can't really see the titles here, which one do you think had the most Biblio-Serendipity with every other book? And I have the original here where I took my notes next to me. I do have an answer for this. And it surprised me because of how the discussion went. So, which book out of the 16 do you think had the most threads attached, let's say? I don't know. Maybe if you could point to it, it might be easier because you could do it visually, but yeah, it looks like a really fun constellation actually. So, the ones here down in the bottom and here up in the top, those are 2 per. So don't overestimate how many threads those have. Answer C, says Eva. Far left or far right? Yeah. Well, see, we knew it was going to get political. Okay. So the one that actually has the most connections is this one, which is, there we go. There's the push pin. Empire of AI. So Brian's book. Now here's the thing. Our discussion was based on Brian's reading. I did not read the book because it was a real fat book and it was very detailed. But I listened to an interview with the author Karen Howe afterwards, like a few days ago. And it was with Hassan Minhaj, right? So great interviewer and very funny. So I really enjoyed the interview. And she put more of an emphasis on Empire of AI, meaning that they were acting like an empire, not like the evil empire from Star Wars. Like, it's a little more academic. It's more like the political history of an empire, which is you extract all that you can from every resource and person. You have a center, you have a periphery. You're accumulating capital. There's all these things that come along with colonialism, basically, that is following along the trail, or should I say, they are following along the trail of what the original European empires did, and American, of course. So she's talking about OpenAI and Sam Altman, but she's putting it in the context of he's acting like the empires of old, and that is not a good thing. We've pivoted away from that, at least on the surface. And so I thought that was really valuable to add. So I sort of, went back and added some things for being related based on the interview that we didn't really cover. So Empire of AI had 5 connections. I've got Parable of the Sower related to Empire of AI right here, because Parable of the Sower is about the breakdown of the empire and no more privileges of the style of life. And so everyone's on their own. And so I thought that was an interesting relation. I've got, let's see, 1984 relating to Empire of AI, because again, the breakdown. 1984 is about government control, where they're replicating the pyramid of a tiny elite exercising control over the vast masses of people, which is what an empire does. And they said it's not blood. It doesn't have to be a royal family. What people don't understand is that you just have to choose your successors, and that is assuring the continuance of your empire. That was really good. So that was a good relation. We have 1984 here and empires. That was a real short connection to make. We've got Empire of AI and Attack from Within. Yes. So Attack from Within is right here. I put it in the center. So that's this connection right here. Attack from Within by Barb McQuaid. And I had a conversation with Melinda at a Web of Stories, is about disinformation and how it is disseminated. And so obviously AI plays a big part in that. It's human intelligence powering the disinformation campaigns, but the people who are crumbling under the weight of the bots are feeling the weight of the AI's impact on disinformation. So that was an easy one. Hi, Vin. Hello, hello. We're going over our murder diagram here. Who killed? No, it's not who killed. It's a Biblio-Serendipity. So it's actually pretty happy. But this is my homemade arts and crafts. I hope you're happy. What else? Empire of AI related to how to resist Amazon and why. So that is what I thought would have the most relationship. So I put it in the middle, but then when I kept counting and kept adding, it was actually one more. So Empire of AI relating to how to resist Amazon. Well, Amazon started its empire with ordering online and commodities, books, if you want to look at them that way. But now they've expanded into many other industries, including AI. And yeah, I just get the same feel. Like if you're looking at, well, we have to be the biggest if we're going to succeed, which is Sam Altman's and the company's sort of driving motivation. And you look at Amazon, like it has obviously had that because it is the biggest and it is succeeding. And we're all trying to retract our brainstem from the tentacles of the Amazon empire. So that was an easy connection to make. And maybe I'll do that one next. But the final Empire of AI connection, oh yes. So right here, I have in black. So most of them are in red, and this is the only one in black, How to Do Nothing. Because when I wrote up all these titles, I had several of them linking in my mind to this non-Agitation August title that really belonged in there. So How to Do Nothing is by Jenny Odell, and Grace, one of the guests, is running a slow read-along of this book. And it had a lot of things to say about attention and digital capture and psychology and what it is to be human. So I felt like that had a lot of commentary between the two. So I made that connection as well. Oh, hi, Leslie. Happy Monday. Ben says, I was near an Amazon warehouse today. It has a horrifically huge beast of a building. The warehouse. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. When Grace and I were talking about the warehouse stuff, it was very dystopian. It was very like, I'm picturing a CGI, movie based on the things that they said were happening. And it's pretty terrible. So yeah, glad we competed to have those in each of our cities a few years ago, right? Glad he's got enough money for his ballroom in DC. Okay, so let's turn to how to resist Amazon and why, and the connections we made there. Let's see if I can do it without the original. See if I can do it from looking at these notes. Like teacher mode, very much so. Here we go. How to resist Amazon and why? We've got a connection first to either All We Can Save or Making of the English Working Class. Which one do you think it is? Now I have to look at my notes. English Working Class. It's Making of the English Working Class. So the reason I did that is because I think the class consciousness that we talked about with Gareth is part of how we resist Amazon, because Amazon and super companies like it want to make us believe that we are in the running to become as successful as they are, right? The dream, the American dream, and just billionaires in waiting, right? That is not the case. We need to have more consciousness of the fact that we are all not competitors. We need to cooperate and kick them off the pedestal so that we have more resources for everybody. That's just my opinion. So I thought that was a good relation. How to resist Amazon and why can also go to Empire of AI. Of course, we already explored that. I've got directly connected with Attack from Within, which is the disinformation book. Let's see. Attack from Within is about disinformation, and Amazon has to deploy disinformation in order to get people to think that they're this smile company, right? You know, if you've heard of the rich giving for charity and you think, well, that's great. And your day hasn't been ruined yet by someone saying, well, actually, this is me today. Well, actually, they often do that to whitewash the bad things that they've done to earn their money. So Carnegie and the steel industry, Sacklers and the opioid epidemic, and Amazon Smile, which is something that you use as an affiliate link and it gives money like pennies, just like of any affiliate sales to the charity of your choice. Don't put that shit in my face. I'm just saying. Don't even. All right, so there's that. Let's see. We've also got, is it this or is it this? I think it's this one. So this is We Refuse, the last book we had by Kelly Carter Jackson, and How to Resist Amazon. So We Refuse is about the different ways to deploy resistance that are not nonviolence. Speaking of flight and force and joy and a couple others, specifically in the context of African American nonviolence. So I think we take those tactics that Kelly Carter Jackson talks about and use them to resist Amazon. Yes, perfect. Why not? You can have tons of joy without Amazon. Just like Grace said in our interview, like, I had life before Amazon, so obviously I think I can probably go back and not have to live with it, or have it to live with. She said it much better. I'm just trying to paraphrase here from the highlights. Yeah, so I really liked that pairing. And I think that's it for resisting Amazon. So maybe I'll go with one more. What else looks like it's like really connected here? Oh, On Tyranny. How about that one? So On Tyranny is a small book, like the zine length book of 20 lessons about what authoritarianism looks like by Timothy Snyder. And I mean, do we really need the book because we're living through it? Yes, we do, because this puts it down in 20 easy lessons instead of flooding the zone with the shit we have in the mainstream media. So this makes it easier to parse what is happening, what it means, what the red flags are. So On Tyranny, we've got some great connections with some of our other conversations. So I follow this down. I've got either 1984 or Hell Followed With Us. I think it's 1984. So again, 1984 is about the elite and the perpetuation of, I want to say corporate capture, or elite capture, just for the heck of it, I guess. So yeah, for power's sake. And that is what tyranny is. It's the drawing together of all the reins of power in a few hands. White, male, billionaire, preferably hands, in our case, in the US, in order to launch their agenda. So that was a good connection to make, even though the book had the state doing it and we have the elite, the aristocracy of America doing it. What else do we have? On Tyranny also relates to Parable of the Sower. So let's see, Tyranny. Oh, okay. I know what I was thinking. Parable of the Sower is, it starts right in the few days before a breakout of violence for this one character we're following, right? The important character of Lauren. And she is seeing the signs. Everyone sees the signs. Everyone has changed their behavior. They've walled up their neighborhoods. They only trust their families, not even them sometimes. They don't go out if they don't need to, beyond the wall. And they know that like the rules of engagement have changed. And then when the breakout event happens and like someone attacks their compound and they have to be on the road, it's sort of to me, like the warning before the storm, I guess. The book obviously was written in 1993. It's not about now, even though it happens now, 2024 to 2025, which is scarily accurate. Octavia Butler, thank you very much for that. But I think if she had read this, she would agree with like many of the signs that she uses in her book as signals of authoritarianism or elite capture or all those things, like the apocalypse basically of government, not the planet, although the planet is struggling for her world as well. So let's see, going clockwise, I also have, I think I did 2 here because it relates to both. So On Tyranny can relate to The Year Without Sunshine. And I did that because one of my favorite lessons from On Tyranny is like, smile at people on the street, talk to your neighbors. And that is basically the theme of The Year Without Sunshine, which is a short story that I've talked about with RK Stumbling Bear. And we had a great discussion about how a lot of us have, since the pandemic maybe, or all our lives, been used to a very circumscribed world, a small world, because anxiety blooms the larger you get, right? The more vulnerable you get with more people. And Rachel, it seemed to me, had done a very good job of somehow just going out and talking to people, getting to know people, taking the steps to be part of her neighborhood organization and like counteract this feeling of closed up, isolated, untrusting, so that's what we want to undo. That's what tyranny wants us to stay in, because then we don't have power. But in The Year Without Sunshine, it's definitely a test case of this small neighborhood. It starts out with a WhatsApp group and then moves on into trying to help someone stay alive and the power stay on, etc. And they make it through a difficult time. So I thought that was a good one. And then the other one there is We Should All Be Feminists. So Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. So her book, another zine, short length book, relates to On Tyranny, I thought, because, and this is after the fact, but when I was talking with Eloise, we were talking about more about like how our learning about gender roles sort of, again, makes our world smaller and more isolated and sort of not as free as the world dictates, right? Like our training and our acculturation is what tells us what to think and what to assume and how to judge. And, that's kind of tyrannical. We need to make our decisions for ourselves. And so we need to expose ourselves to different points of view. And I think the feminism, and We Should All Be Feminists, is about not clinging to the single story and seeing multiple points of view and then judging for yourself. So it's sort of a re-education of yourself. So that's those 2. And I think that's it for On Tyranny. But isn't this cool? So I've got the titles and I've got the push pins, and then I've got, sometimes I knotted it and sometimes I used these little clothespins, which were so cute. I couldn't give them away. Oh, and the Post-it notes. So sorry, the backwardsness of this is really throwing me off. Post-it notes here are for connections that I made to these titles that didn't really relate to anything else and weren't Agitation August titles themselves, but I wanted to record it. So Parable of the Sower, I was reading another book called This is Shanghai that talked about growth and just like the way we approach growth and how it needs to change. Because if we are still stuck in this economics of the 1990s where we think growth is the answer to everything, I'm sorry, toots, like we don't have enough planets for that. So we need to figure out another idea. So that was sort of talking to itself in my head. And also East of Eden. I haven't finished East of Eden. It was too depressing. So it was too evil. But I'm sure Pat will tell me I need to finish it. I haven't looked at the Voxer chat for weeks and weeks. Obviously, they're done. They're all finished with it. But I still have it on the shelf. I might come back to it. But when I was reading Parable of the Solar, what was the connection to East of Eden? East of Eden, like I said, I only read the first few chapters because it was very biblical. Well, maybe that was the connection. We'll leave it at that for now. Just maybe it's too black and white for me. And then up here, I've got Steering by Starlight, which brought up two other ones. The Secret. So Elaine and I talked about The Secret and how it's totally bunk. And Steering by Starlight seemed like a much better system. And then The Transcendentalists. It made me think of The Transcendentalists when the author mentioned like these layers. So there's a surface layer that we're usually on. There's a fire layer. And then there's like the core, which is like the eye of the storm. And we have to get through the fire layer and burn through a lot of extra messaging we don't need to figure out like what we really need to do in the world. It's really good. So all this to say that I really enjoyed this project. I made lots of connections with books. I made lots of connections with people. And so I hope we can do it again with every weekday. You give me enough time, I can buddy read all the books for every weekday in August. But I do need people to sign up. So again, check the description below, send me a message via Instagram or Blue Sky or email, and let me know if you want to be a guest next year and present a book, discuss a book that shook you up, agitated you, really made you rethink things in your life. Okay, now I'm going to catch up on the chat because I was holding that for a long time. Libro is here. Hello. Says there is an arresting scene in the film Colossus, the Forbin Project, where the AI computer orders 24-hour surveillance of Dr. Forbin. Disregarding the order will result in a missile strike. Wow. Yeah, is it recent or is it like early computer age? It's interesting. Capo says, yeah, we are cooperators. Yes, not competitive. Cooperators. Yeah. You get it. You get it. Libro says, I think the film Brazil is closer to where we are heading. I've actually seen part of that, and I'm trying to remember anything about it. But I have nothing. I just remember that I've seen that, and it was like not my style. It's not the normal style, and I was like confused by it. So I don't think I saw the whole thing. Greg says, the oligarchy uses the state to impose tyranny. I'm not sure they can be separated. Oh, fair point. Fair point. So let's see. What would be my 1984 sort of distinction? So whereas 1984 uses the state directly, the news, the government employees, the radio waves, I'm trying to think, the resources for prisons. Those are the other things that come up in the story, right? Our case, our elite capture case, instead of state capture, has to keep the fiction of democracy going. So it's co-opted by money, and then it's people pulling strings behind a very transparent curtain at this point. But yeah, fair. Libro says a geometric tarot deck. Is that what this looks like? I was trying to make it look like a murder investigation because I know true crime is what sells on here. I don't know. The film is from 1970. Colossus, the Forbin Project. Oh, that's kind of what I was thinking, like the atomic age kind of feel for a missile strike. It's a good premise, though. It's yeah, pretty scary. What else? What else? I did this project. I still have the video with both highlights to put together because I wanted to do all of them in an intentional mix rather than just stick the two together. But we have part 1 and part 2 up. So everyone has highlights. I left Dee Dee off some of the highlights because I started with hers and then the quality wasn't great. So I had to fiddle a bit and I didn't have time at the beginning. Anyway, Dee Dee's got more highlights now and I have them to edit. But I'm going on vacation on Wednesday. So, I'm going to be recording a different video for you guys on Friday with some tags. And I may work on the highlights of the whole month video. But that is what is coming up for me. And that's this week. So very exciting. I'll just put this up in case anyone has questions. And yeah, then our August will be sort of over. I have been seeing, this is just a little teaser, I have been seeing a lot of videos on personal curriculum, which is pretty funny because it's obviously a word taken out of context. And so the people who are doing videos on personal curriculum, I've not been trained in curriculum development or lesson planning or how it all fits together with like state codes and all that sort of stuff. But it's a fun catchword. Why not, right? And what it is promoting, I think, is just a lifelong journey of discovery and learning, which I'm totally behind. So I might do a video on this. I thought about making a sort of TBR based on the concept. But of course, a curriculum requires a bit more commitment than mood readers usually like. So see if you can tell me if there's a curriculum theme based on the books that I'm going to read. So this is one I started last night, The Moon Spinners by Mary Stewart. It's a romantic suspense set in Crete in the 1960s. It's a pleasure read. That's fine. This is one I am reading with Devin Gambrell Clark, fellow indie author here on YouTube. She read this 20 years ago for college for sociology major requirements. Revolt of the Elites by Christopher Lasch. And I saw this along with some other Christopher Lashes and was totally intrigued because I think this is like part of the root of the problem. In one of the Agitation August talks, I talked about, it was one with Gareth, right? The Making of the English Working Class. The book talked about the feudalism and the sort of agreement between the classes with that one would give something along with taking and the other would take something along with giving, and they had different responsibilities. Of course, that's theoretical. It's not actually like equally shared responsibilities and such, but that broke down with industrialization and we haven't really repaired it. Democracy attempts to repair it by giving a voice in the discussion of what we do with our resources, but it really can't keep up with dark money and co-opting of the state. And so this is Christopher Lash's explaining, I'm only like one chapter in, but it's his explaining of why the elites have revolted and given up responsibility of, I don't know, being in the tax system and paying their fair share and admitting that, the society itself contributed to their wild success. Here are some other books that I'm planning on picking up next. This one, just because it says September, Elizabeth Bowen. I haven't read Elizabeth Bowen. It's called The Last September. I think it's like a literary novel from the 1950s or 60s. And yeah, I tried to read Elizabeth Bowen for March of the Modern. She had like a 1945 book called Death of the Heart, and I finally unhauled it because I couldn't pick it up for some reason. But yeah, Independence. Political, sexual, and spiritual. And apparently it's a movie. So maybe I'll watch the movie after that one. And then we've got Practicing New Worlds. by Andrea J. Ritchie, Abolition and Emergent Strategies. And what caught me about this one, besides the fact that it was recommended for activists, was the fact that it used the metaphor in one of the descriptions of like the one that appealed to me about the runaway train of climate catastrophe. And we can't stop it at this point. Like with 4 more years of this crap, we can't stop it. We don't have the power in the system. But we can try to build a train alongside as it's going and have something to jump onto that won't immediately crash, meaning local strategies, local support, and independent communities in real life. So yeah, I thought, oh, someone's thinking along the same lines, perhaps. So I thought that would be a good one. And then this one from the library, Asiri and the Amaru by Natalia Hernandez, which has been on my wish list for a while. It is for the Latinx Readathon because it's Hispanic Heritage Month, which is half of September, half of October. So that starts today. So this is a beautiful cover. It's an indie author. And I think it's set in Peru because like the series is called Pisco Sweet and Sour Book 1. And I think it takes folklore elements from Peruvian culture and lends them into like a fantasy kind of novel. It's been a while since I read the description, but I've had it on my library wish list for a while. So just looks really cool. And yeah, good excuse to dive in. So those are my TBRs. We've got Hispanic Heritage. We've got Saving Ourselves. We've got, I don't know, Independence of Spirit. We've got What Got Us Into This Mess. And just a little chutzpah. Oh, what should I call it? Gumption. And, you know, romantic happiness. Why not put that in the mix? So that is my jam for September and perhaps into October. Any thoughts from you guys on directions for the fall where you're going to be heading reading wise? Libro says, I've been revisiting the fine essayist and longtime Harper's editor Lewis Lapham. I think he died this year. His essays from the 80s to the present are insightful about our present predicament. Interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to associate Lewis Lapham with Christopher Lasch. They might not be in the same ideological camp, but I think in terms of stature in the critical press, they might be equals. Sounds good. Greg says, I've only read Christopher Lasch's New Radicalism in America, which I think is most popular title, maybe. And from Mary Stewart, I've only read the Arthurian books. Yes. She has a lot of romantic suspense that are very much, oh, do I want to say it? Poor little rich person type stories, meaning people who are very well off but often lost parents at a young age. So they're missing something. And they're, you know, in a romantically suspenseful situation. So it's a good adventure and it's witty. And yeah, it's a romance. So I haven't read The Crystal Cave, but I do have it. I have it right here. I love the Arthur adventures, but I started reading Jack White's, Whyte. And his were so compelling, I feel like reading another version is going to be strange. But I obviously will because Mary Stewart is Mary Stewart and she deserves a chance. So yeah. But yeah, so that is my show and tell for the Biblio-Serendipity. And it's not a tag, but if anyone else likes this term and wants to talk about how the books are talking to each other through your brain, tag me. I'd love to hear how this weird thing in my brain may actually reach out and touch someone else. So that'd be fun. And that was a little bit about my hope to read in the next little bit and the fact that I'm going on vacation. So you'll have a recorded video on Friday. So that is about it for today. So thank you guys for being here. And just erase the thing and put that up. I will see you again Friday somehow. in the ether. So diversify your reading list. Take care of yourselves this week, and happy reading. Oh, Privileged and Political Family. Yeah, I've read Gore Vidal. I've read 2 of his. 1 fiction, 1 nonfiction. Went Against the Grain and His Class. Recommend both. Okay. Excellent recommendation. Thank you, Libro. Okay, guys. Happy reading. Bye.